Honourable Santi Bradshaw, Minister of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, other ministry officials, Principal of the Barbados Community College, Ms. Anna Aline, President of the Guild Council, Mr. Tertiary Payne, staff, students, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, welcome to Barbados Community College. We are here to officially acknowledge BCC's participation in the government Give Back policy. It is a program that the college fully supports. In June of 2018, the government in the policy shift announced the reintroduction of payment fees for Barbadian students pursuing bachelor degrees at the University of the West Indies, Tertiary Teachers Training College, and the Barbados Community College. As part of that policy shift, the government has asked students to give back to the community in the form of 100 to 150 voluntary hours to an approved local institution. This policy gels well with the general aims of the college, which are to, 1, provide students with skills, knowledge, and attitudes necessary for productive work in the community. 2, foster among staff and students a positive sense of community service and involvement. And thirdly, prepare students for meaningful participation in society as responsible citizens. At present, there are 236 students who are eligible to participate in this Give Back policy, and those students are taken from a number of bachelor programs, and those programs are as follows: clinical laboratory science, pharmacy, art and entertainment management, studio art, graphic art, physical education, technical and vocational education. We also have students pursuing bachelors in nursing, but those students were exempted because of the long hours that they have to take part in their clinical hours and rotations at the QEH hospital. I would want to suggest that at least 8 benefits can be derived from students' participation in this program. 1, development of higher level thinking skills such as problem solving and critical thinking. 2, the development of the insight, judgment, and understanding of social issues. 3, the promotion of self-esteem. 4, the development of personal efficacy and a sense of responsibility. 5th, social responsibility and concern for others. 6, to encourage civic participation, which is important for all young people. That is one of the things that we look forward to have students being more active in civic participation activities in Barbados. 7, to encourage their learning skills through observation and inquiry. 8, to develop their understanding and appreciation of the ability to relate to people of various backgrounds and solutions. As registrar responsible for student matters, I am committed to working with the Ministry of Education to ensure that the program is a success for students, the college, and Barbados as a whole. Thank you. I now invite our principal, Ms. Aline, to address you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Worrell. Okay, Honorable Santi Bradshaw, Minister of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, other officials from the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, Mr. Roger Worrell, Registrar of the Barbados Community College, and our newly elected President of the Students' Guild, Mr. Tertiary Payne, students, and other members of the media, good morning to all of you. The Barbados Community College is in a unique position in that, as a tertiary institution, our student body comprises individuals who are seeking professional qualifications. We're including those who also see or who engage in the institution as an intermediary in the pursuit of further education, as well as those who are seeking technical training that would allow the access to the work market. We're often told that school is a microcosm of the wider society, and as such, we are impacted by the same forces and challenges, with the most current one being the COVID-19 pandemic, which has not only revealed deficiencies in our educational systems, but has provided opportunities for creative solutions. I'm going to take this opportunity, as I've been doing recently, to remind our students and the members present of our vision and mission statement. And I'd like our students here to read along with me. We'll start with the vision statement first. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, to be a world-class center of excellence in education and training. Thank you. Now the mission, 1, 2, 3, to meet the changing developmental, educational, and training needs of stakeholders through the provision of relevant high-quality programs. Thank you. So those are our vision and mission statements, and the Give Back program is in alignment with our mission statements. This Give Back program allows us to address the issue of your developmental attainment. I look at you, students, and I think, what potential? And I see a couple of faces in the audience that have been former students as well, and they would be aware that that is the approach that I often use in education. What potential? Now, if during your time at the college, we allow you to see who you are, the skills and techniques that you can acquire, how to believe when others see the impossible, individuals who can withstand the onslaught of the negative social media that may come your way, individuals who can use your sphere of influence to effect positive social change. You are young, energetic, at your creative best, and if at this institution we are in any way instrumental in helping you on that journey to self-discovery, we would have fulfilled part of our purpose. BCC is an entity. We're registered as an entity for the Give Back program, and here there's huge scope for the engagement of students not only from the Barbados Community College, but students from Urdeston and the University of the West Indies as well. You are all welcome. There are opportunities for engagement in our business development, in marketing, in various offices across the campus. From the ones in fine arts, there are murals to be painted. There's an institution to be beautified. There are dedicated members of staff who are willing to work with you and technically show you the ropes. If we share the load, there will be improvement in our services, and a unified approach to service excellence could very well be the outcome of this process. I want to encourage you to embrace this spirit of volunteerism and giving back. Very often, volunteerism comes without thanks, appreciation, or reward. You keep going because you recognize that the task is bigger than you are, and that the vision and the purpose of the institution or organization supersedes personal interests. Sometimes the knowledge that you're serving a higher purpose is just enough. I am here to remind you, however, that in your case, the government is paying your tuition fees, so you're getting something out of the Give Back program. So I want to remind you of that, and to remind you that education has always been and still is a very expensive process. It is actually the taxpayers of this country who are investing in your education, and just like any good investment, returns are expected. Now, I'm going to just give you a few tips on how you should approach the Give Back process. This is not a mandate, it is not orders, it is just a few tips that would allow you to enjoy the process of giving back. First of all, you need to see this as an opportunity, rather than another thing on top of all the hours of work that I have to do, or asking yourself, how am I ever going to address all the things in my personal life that I need to look after? This is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to stretch yourself, to test the limits of what is possible, and to find meaning. Take this opportunity, run with it, exploit it, become more creative in managing your time. so that you don't neglect your studies or other areas that need your attention. Approach this process with gratitude, a commodity that is often in very short supply. Gratitude for the opportunity. And ask yourself, what if? What if? What if? What if all of us in this room this morning got up and wrote a list of all the things that we had to be thankful for? The studies that keep us focused, the work that challenges us, the people we interact with daily, the difficult ones, the amiable ones. Gratitude for life, for health. Gratitude for the pleasant, the not so pleasant. The problems that teach us how to be creative, the opposition that makes us stronger, the mistakes that teach us prudence, the dissenting voices that allow us to see what our blind spots are. If we could all, what if we could all say, like with the Apostle Paul, I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. So you go seeing this as an opportunity, you go with gratitude, and you go with, thirdly, solutions. You won't always get it right, but that's okay. I know it sounds really cliche, but from primary school through secondary school and at the tertiary level, we're told to give our best. And we hear those words so often that very often they might lose their potency. But I'm here to reinforce that. Give your best, whatever that best is. Take something that is already being done and improve on it. Give your best ideas, your best work ethic. Write some books, develop some products, make something better. That is innovation. Go with curiosity and the desire to learn. Figure out how to engage different types of people from different backgrounds. Whether you volunteer in an area of interest which is part of your study or something outside of your area of interest, infuse it with a passion for learning. Set high standards for yourself. Even when no one is watching, be disciplined enough to give more than is being demanded. Be courteous, respectful, kind. Those good old-fashioned Bajan values. Say thank you, please, smile. These are things that are free and available to all of us. Show persons in the community or the organization what the BCC standard of excellence is. Be on time. Keep your word. Be dependable. Understand the importance of confidentiality. Everything does not have to go on social media. Right? And in summary, I'll just reinforce that the me first attitude is going to have to take a back seat in an environment where we're promoting volunteerism and giving back. Understand that great service does not mean servitude, neither does it mean being placid, letting other people walk over you, or being unambitious. Isn't it amazing that there's so much talk about reform and change, entrepreneurship, capacity building? Those are the current buzzwords in education. Yet, we seem to want change without discomfort. We want success without sacrifice. And we want a degree or diploma without discipline. How can that be? On Sunday, I was having a discussion with some young people who were talking about using their influence to change the world. And I'm questioning, at my age now, whatever does that mean? I remember when I was young thinking that I could change the world, make things better. I've come to the conclusion that maybe it is about creating balance and maintaining a system of equilibrium, where we have just enough persons in the society who would avoid nationalism, the me first, and my own people, I'm looking after nobody else. Maybe we need just enough of those persons. Maybe we need just enough persons who have a peaceful approach to counter the violence. Maybe we need just enough compassionate to counter the lack of caring. Maybe just enough who are tolerant and would douse the harsh rejection that can pervade the society. Maybe just enough stewards of the environment who will protect our limited resources, and just enough motivators who would rouse us from our complacency and challenges to maximize whatever God-given talents there are. Enough volunteers to counter being self-centered. Be passionate about volunteering and giving back. Let that passion be resistant to opposition, mood swings, feelings, uncertainty, questioning, and disappointment. It is an honor to serve, to give expecting nothing in return. This is how we create balance. And maybe, just maybe, this is how we can change the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arlene, for that enlightening speech. I just want to reiterate what Ms. Arlene said by suggesting that this give back policy must not be seen as a burden, but it must be seen as something given to your society, because the old cliche is better to give than to receive. And also, I like to reference a quote from a former president of the United States, John F. Kennedy, who said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." This is an opportunity for you to do that. The next speaker is the Honorable Minister of Education, Santia Bradshaw, and I would like to introduce her to the podium right now.
Master of Ceremonies, thank you very much. Principal Ms. Annette Aline, and other members of staff of the Barbados Community College, President of the Student Guild, Mr. Terrell Payne, students, especially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. As I listen to Ms. Aline speak of the qualities that you as students should have here at the Barbados Community College as you engage in this Give Back program, I sat there smiling because as a former student of the Barbados Community College, it brought back a number of memories of my time here and the service that I gave, even though I did not have the government of Barbados at the time obviously being so generous. I don't know how many of you are history students. Are there any history students in the room? No? Any doing politics? Any doing law? Well, those of you who may not be aware, I know that we used to call, I think we still do, call the history department the intellectual powerhouse of the Barbados Community College for those students who would attend. Is that still the case? I believe. Well, I came up under Mr. Marshall, Trevor Marshall. Yeah, so during that time, and I start there because during that time, while we were students at this college, it wasn't just about academic learning and training and teaching. It was also about creating a sense of responsibility to the community here at Community College, but also the wider community. And regrettably, or perhaps it was a good thing at the time, many of my colleagues wanted to change the world. We believed that while we were here to learn, we were also here to put into effect what we were learning later on in life in some form or fashion. I can say that there are actually about 3 of us presently in the House of Assembly that would have passed through these walls and these halls of the Barbados Community College. And while we were here, we were able to engage in our lessons as well, but we also participated in creating environmental groups in opposition to narcotics. We had a group here called Envision. It was a long word. It was environmentally intelligent students in opposition to narcotics. Quite a mouthful, but again, we were going to change the world. And we set about, in our own way, trying to engage with other NGOs and civil society who we felt we shared a common purpose with. And as students, we would feed the prisoners, we would feed the families of prisoners, we would go into various places to feed people, we would go to the schools, we would talk to young people about staying away from drugs in all forms. We would try to do positive activities in our own way to encourage people to take a leaf out of our book as well and recognize that we had a responsibility to give back. So I start there because while Ms. Aline is saying that, you know, we may not be able to change the world in one fell swoop, I do agree that you have to set yourself some goals, and that you have to recognize that even though you are a student, you have a responsibility to this college, you have a responsibility to the wider community, and certainly to Barbados as a whole, to find some way, some measure of being able to give back to society. Because it is only when you recognize how you have gotten here and the sacrifices that have been made prior to you coming here, that you are in a position to pull along the next person, to inspire the next young person to want to go to the Barbados Community College, that may want to go into the career that you are choosing. We had an estimates meeting about a week ago with the principal, the members of the Board of Management, and we discussed the plans, the future financial plans for this institution. And at the forefront of our minds was basically looking at where we are presently in terms of being in a COVID-19 pandemic, looking at the priorities, because I think all of you have had to change in some way and adapt to what I guess is now the new normal in your lives as students, but in your own personal lives. You've had to adapt to what is now this new situation that is unfolding. And one of the things that we've been looking at in relation to this institution is, in a strange way, the discussion about students giving back came up, and I bet you, Ms. Principal, you would recall. And we spoke about, for instance, the Erie campus, the building on the hill that even from my days was here and needed to be renovated so that students, particularly in the creative arts, would have the opportunity to see that building restored and to bring it back to its original glory. And we spoke about students who were former students of this college being able to reach out to the principal and to engage in a discussion about how they could give back of their services. Now, these are not current students, these are former students, but in their respective ways, as they are now professionals in their own right and excellent in their respective fields, they too have got the same type of thinking that we are trying to encourage others like yourself to be engaged in, where we want people to be able to reach out and say, we want to give back to the college, we want to give back to communities, we want to give back to the overall society of Barbados. And I say that to you this morning to hopefully inspire you that even though as part of this program that we've put in place for Give Back focuses on you being students, that you need to appreciate that even when you leave here as a student and you go on to your other disciplines and start to practice in your respective fields, that you too have a responsibility to give back to the college, to give back to your communities, to give back to your former schools, to give back to your country. We've made a sacrifice in this country over the course of the last few decades in relation to education. And we may not always agree in terms of successive administrations as to the methodology, but I think one thing has been common with both administrations, and it's the belief that education is important, that education helps to transform lives, that if you are from poor economic backgrounds in particular, that it gives you the ability to have that social mobility to not only uplift yourself, but also to uplift your family as well. We recognize that in so doing, it is important that when we would have come to office as a government, we recognize that many of you would not have had the opportunity to come to this institution, and others that would have gone before would not have been able to come here because of a former policy from the previous administration that basically abolished tuition fees at the tertiary level. And our commitment back in 2018 to the country was that we recognized that that was a stumbling block for a number of people who wanted to advance socially, but could not now do so because these barriers had now been put in place, where in a very difficult economic climate, you were then being asked to, as in particular, mothers had to choose whether they were going to go back to the college or to university, or even to Urdeston, or whether they were going to decide that their children were going to be the beneficiaries of a tertiary education. So we took a decision that the impact that was having on society, in particular, or women who were having to make these difficult choices, was just not something that we could just come to office and ignore. And we said that one of the first things that we were going to do was to abolish the tuition fees at the tertiary level. And we did so, restoring for many of you and others who have come before in the last few years, giving you an opportunity to be able to attend this institution and to be able to take advantage of being able to have and to further your educational studies. But we also said, you know, to whom much is given, much is expected. And it cannot be that government continues to spend significant sums of monies on educating our people and not creating them a sense of giving back, a sense of purpose in terms of recognizing that a sacrifice is being made for you in order to make this country and certainly the rest of the world a lot better. We recognize that we couldn't just be a government that gave a handout and in turn tried to beat into you a sense of responsibility. We recognize that we had to inspire you to join with us in understanding how important giving back education and the educational opportunities are, but equally that you understood as well that this isn't something that we're just trying to get you to do because we've put aside the funds to pay for this, but this is something that is really who we are as a people. And we perhaps have moved away a lot from that sense of civic responsibility and giving back in communities. I mean, Barbados has changed so much over the course of the last few decades that people tend to focus more on themselves. They tend to focus on their families or their individual wants and needs as opposed to looking at society as a collective. So we wanted to make sure that through this program that we inspired you as students to start to think about ways from now that you can be able to create a Barbados that you want to live in, a Barbados that you want future generations to be able to live in. Because that is really, even as policymakers, that is really what we're doing. Every day we get up, and I have the benefit of being a part of a cabinet led by Prime Minister Motley, who believes in not just building for today, but looking at what we are going to lay in terms of a foundation for future generations. And we're not just talking it, but we actually have to walk the walk to take people where we want them to go. When we speak about creating global citizens, it is because we want to be able to put all of you, not just to do the heavy lifting in Barbados, but because we recognize that as a country, we have a long, proud history of Barbadians that build out this nation, but also have built out societies in the region and have built out societies internationally as well. We are proud of that. And the only way to inspire you to realize that it begins home, drums beat first. It begins here in terms of creating that sense of responsibility is to create a program that you can feel that from the early stages of your development in terms of your education, that you can actually be a part of contributing to as well. And then when you go on to wherever you may go in terms of future education and future training, the reality is you will not forget this journey. And hopefully you will find in your own way an opportunity to be able to lift up others that will come after you. So this program is not, as I said, designed to whip you into submission because, as I said, we are giving you an opportunity for education. There is a deeper sense of understanding from us as a government that this is really the makeup. This is who we are as a people. This is how we have been for several generations. Even if in the last few years, many people have forgotten how important it is to give back. We want to inspire you to be able to find ways in your own fields of study to be able to give back. Now, during the last few months, or during this COVID-19 pandemic, we have also witnessed a number of civil society organizations, a number of the NGOs that many of you may have signed up to work with. They've also been hit by this pandemic. And they've been hit hard in the sense that they've had to readjust their priorities. They've had to rethink how they engage with people because in many cases we're now wearing masks, we're now having to sanitize, we're now having to consider how we physically are in spaces with each other. And many of them have had to readjust their programs, or in some cases we've seen within the ministry the emergence of new types of NGOs trying to fill a need in our society. Now, all of these NGOs would have been relying as well on the input and the assistance from many of you as volunteers to give back to their programs. And I want to take this opportunity not only to say thank you to those NGOs who have been carrying the heavy load for us over the past few months, but also to say to you as students that as we deal with the effects and the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, we also have to find a way to strengthen a number of these non-governmental organizations and civil society organizations, because really they are the ones who are helping us to stabilize our society, to stabilize our communities, and to keep Barbadians with their head above water. It is therefore important that you find a way to identify with many of these organizations. I think we've given the opportunity to be able to work with multiple organizations. We've basically provided them with training so that they understand what is expected of them, but equally what is expected of you as well as students when you attend their sessions. We've spoken to them about orientation, making sure that you know the rules under which they operate under when you go into their institutions, as Madam Principal would have alluded to. You have to conduct yourself as representatives of the Barbados Community College. But you also have to conduct yourselves with a level of decorum that appreciates and respects the fact that many of these organizations do engage in confidential activities, and therefore you have an even greater responsibility to make sure that you understand and you appreciate that. But also, if you can strengthen their entities and add value to their entities, then you also have to focus your attention on how can you support and provide those necessary resources. So we spend about, I think it's 11% of our annual budget on education. It's, I have one of the larger ministries responsibility for a large budget, apart from health and perhaps tourism. Education continues to get significant investment from the government of Barbados, and I believe will continue to do so. But in order to continue to justify our spend, it really requires that you also help us to do some of that heavy lifting, that the public doesn't look on and say, you know, we're investing all the time, we've given back all these young people the opportunity to go to university and to engage in tertiary education, and they're not participating in some level of give back. I want you as students to post, obviously respecting confidentiality, but post your experiences, especially your positive experiences. I want you to let Barbadians, other Barbadians know what you are doing, how you are contributing. I want you to tell this story that allows others to again hold Barbados in high esteem, because I want to really make you all know that Barbados has always been regarded as a cut above the rest in education. And many other territories across the region and across the world are watching the way in which we have been engaging with our students, reinstating a number of these policies, because they recognize that we are doing something different that allows us to be able to prepare for the future. And many of them are calling the ministry and reaching out and asking, how did you put this program in place? How were you able to get schools back into operation in a safe way? They're watching Barbados, and in turn, the world is watching you as well. So I want you all to leave here this morning feeling a bit more inspired or energized that this program is really about you and the future that you want to see in Barbados, the future that you want to create, because regardless of what discipline you are in, the reality is that you all have a part to play in building out this country. Whether you're in the engineers, the architects, whether you're doing food and nutrition, whatever the area is, nursing, you all have a part to play in our society. But you first have to believe that you have a part to play. Because if you don't believe or have a sense that you have something to contribute, then all of what we are attempting to do in trying to build out this country and make it better really will come to nothing. So it really is a huge responsibility that you must also carry. And from our end at the Ministry of Education, we will continue to support. I mean, we've heard the concerns students in relation to fine-tuning aspects of the program, and I think the school has been trying to respond with us and to try to tweak where possible, because I do know that there are some students who feel a bit pressured more than others in relation to some programs, and we've been looking at how we can fine-tune. But at the core of everything must always be that even if we make certain allowances for some students over others, you still must find a way in your spare time to be able to give back to society. So this morning, I am pleased that after a long break, not a break of our own making, but certainly a long break as a result of us not being able to engage in this way, a long break which carried with it a number of adjustments for a number of the entities, and even for the very college here as well, who has a number of entities already doing very positive things here, that we are able to gather, even if it is in our small numbers this morning, to be able to hit the ground running again with this program. And again, as I want to assure you, we will fine-tune, we will tweak, but we want your positive responses and your positive feedback to tell us where we are going wrong, where we are going right, where you want us to improve, how is it working for you. Because I want to, again, remind you that there's no precedent for the Give Back program. There's none. And therefore, it is important that you understand that there's no playbook that we have. It's like the COVID-19 pandemic. There's no playbook that we have to say, this is how we respond to dealing with tourists coming from overseas. There's no playbook to say how many quarantine facilities we must have and how many isolation centers. There's nothing. This is the hard work and the labor of Barbadians being able to be creative, to think about their society, and to understand that we have always been regarded as punching above our weight, and therefore we have to continue to inspire all of you that are going to be the next generation to also, in your own way, find a way to punch above your weight. So I'm going to end now and wish you all well. Wish you success in your studies and the completion of your studies, but again, ask you all to find a way, not just here at the college and not just because of the Give Back program, but it could be within your churches, it could be within your communities, it could be homework programs, it could be at the looking after kids, it could be just inspiring a young person, a young boy or girl, find a way to be relevant and to make a difference in this little Barbados, and again, to allow us to create the global citizens that we can put you anywhere in the world, and people will regard this little nation as always being able to punch above its weight. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister, for reinforcing the underpinning of government's policy in relation to the Give Back program. And I would like to crave the indulgence of the Minister by asking the newly elected President of the Guild of Students at the BCC to make a very short speech and introduce himself to the Barbados Community College students.
Minister of Education, Technological, Vocational Training, Honorable Cynthia Bradshaw, other ministry officials, the principal, the registrar, specially invited guests, members of staff, students, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Firstly, let me introduce myself. As you would have heard, I am the newly elected Guild President. My name is Tertiary Payne. I am a science student. I am humble, motivated, positive, and hardworking. I like challenges, and I love to surround myself with positive people. I am thrilled and very grateful for the opportunity to lead our student guild. I'm very optimistic about the future as my team and I endeavor to elucidate the many grievances that our students are faced with. This morning, I come before you with an attitude of gratitude. First, I want to thank all of you who went out and voted in our elections and allowed your voice to be heard. I want to extend a thanks to our former Guild President, Kobe Brooms, and the last Guild Council for a job well done in placing a foundation from which I will continue to build on. The only way from here is up. I want to thank all staff members who congratulated and warmly welcomed me aboard. Indeed, I am very enthusiastic about working with you all to ensure that every student of the BCC receives the best possible quality of education. We are here today to commemorate the Give Back program. And before we go any further, I want to thank our Minister of Education, the government and her team for the reintroduction of the payment of tuition fees for Barbadian students pursuing courses of study at the UWI, the BCC, and the Earlston Training College. I am thankful that us, the students of the BCC, and students from all around Barbados have an opportunity to further our education, as we are the future and the generation that will carry on. The aim is to create a national movement of Barbadians to find a way to give back service to their community and country. The National Give Back program aims to instill a sense of responsibility in its citizens to contribute to the development of the country through civic responsibilities and volunteer service to the community. Its goal is to help shape the nation through service and appreciation and love for country. I encourage and motivate all students of the BCC that are a part of the National Give Back program not to miss out on such an opportunity to grow in unity and develop and be able to write on history's page. Let us give of our best, because this is who we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrell. This concludes this aspect of the presentation. I wish to thank the Honorable Minister of Education, Technological and Vocational Training for being here, the Principal of Barbados Community College, Ms. Aline, members of the media, all invited guests, thank you for being here. So have a good day, please.